Pranam Sadhguru. Hope you're enjoying yourself on this amazing journey that you're making through America. Trust me, if it wasn't COVID times, I'd be right beside you, riding on a bike, wanting to understand Native American mysticism and spirituality. Sadhguru, I had a question that what is the position of women in the Native American mysticism or spirituality? In India, we have the concept of the divine feminine, but the position of women in India is unfortunately not that great despite our spiritual tradition. What is their spiritual tradition? How do they view women in their canon?
Namaskaram, Tisca. Well, especially because there is virus around, the safest place to be is a motorcycle, huh? Nobody with you. And about you riding next to me, whoa, try that when I come to India, we will see. About Native American cultures and position of women. See, we should not judge ancient societies with today's realities. This is one thing we must understand even about India, that you made a comment about how India's situation of women's situation in India is very bad. You must understand that yes, women have taken the brunt of many bad things, and especially these unfortunate sexual assaults and things that are happening. But we must understand this is a consequence of generations of poverty. Once poverty hits people at a certain level, this so-called sense of civilization, even basic humanity, unfortunately disappears in human beings, and they become cruel to each other. The cruelty against women is unfortunately turns into a kind of a sexual mode, but generally I want you to understand, people who are powerful, people who are well-to-do, people who have the power to exercise over other people have always been cruel to everybody else, man or woman. Don't think life in India is not cruel to a man. Just go into a slum or into a village and see, man's life is also hard. I am not trying to say women have not taken extra beating, they have. But I am telling you, this is not because they are women, simply because they are little weaker physically than man. So children are beaten, women are beaten, weaker men are beaten, weaker societies are beaten, weaker civilizations are erased from the planet. This is the unfortunate reality of the human being. About women's position in Native American situation, well, a lot of tribes have been matriarchal, that means the lineage is carried through women, so definitely they had a certain place. But at the same time, because they were tribal cultures and they were nomadic, and there was for many of them, where there were some of the tribes or some of the nations which had established, societies, like they built cities and things like that, in those places women had equal place. There was education for both men and women. One or two tribes even went into something like higher education in their own way, both for men and women. So there was reasonable equality, but you must understand, today what you see, a kind of a level playing ground that is beginning to arise everywhere in the world for men and women, is not happening because of emancipated mind, it is happening because of technology. Because of technology, man's muscle is no more that significant. It is not significant at all. How much brawn do you have? Nobody cares. How much brains do you have? That's what. This is what has leveled the playing field. And as it moves more and more in this direction, the ability of anybody to exploit women will also go down, and which is happening. Not rapidly enough, it must happen in our generation, unfortunately it's not happening rapidly enough. Having said that, the Native American populations, largely, many of the nations were nomadic in nature, they liked to live like that in nature. When they were nomadic, naturally there was conflicts for food, conflicts for territory. Wherever there is physical conflict, there naturally man rules and women fall back. And of course, Unlike today's times where a woman can control her reproductive process as she wishes, there was no such control, so most of the time women will have either they are in pregnancy or they have little children to take care of, which kept them busy, but generally they were honored in these societies. I am right now at the Crow Reservation, but last few days we have been in the Lakota Nation. In the Lakota Nation, the women were hugely honored and they were very strong women. There are cases, or there are many cases where when they were under attack, when they had to be quiet and hiding, in that hiding, when under the noses of soldiers who are wanting to kill the men, under their noses, women delivered children without a whimper, without one little sound coming out of them in spite of what it takes to deliver a child. And that is the kind of strength they possessed. So, they were hugely honored for that. And naturally, in a society where a lot of young men die, producing children or producing male children becomes a very important part because always there is conflict and young men keep dying. So, considering those situations, considering the times in which they existed, I think generally these cultures treated women very well, I would say, not in today's standards, but in those standards, because men had to go out all the time. It is the woman who managed the home, it's the woman who managed the situations. About mysticism, there have been many medicine women also, as there have been medicine men. And above all, the prophet, one of the few prophets that exist in the Native American culture, the white buffalo calf woman, she is the prophet. She is the one who is supposed to have given all the wisdom and knowledge to the Lakota Nation. So, the main prophet who rules them, who rules their consciousness, is a woman. I think that's a great honor. But physical realities were harsh, so naturally, women took a certain amount of more beating, I would say, than men because of childbearing, of little children, the care and concern, the emotion, all this, I'm sure it was a tough life, but they played their role with great dignity.